today's workshop. So just a heads up.
We'll get started in just a minute here, just admitting a couple people. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, hi everyone, and welcome to our webinar today for Saving and Spending Smart. I am Ariana Franklin, and I am a college coach in the Northwest coastal region.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kevin Castellanos. I'm also one of the CSF coaches. However, I work for the Tacoma region, supporting Tacoma Community College and Bates Technical College. Thank you guys all for being here today.
All right, and just a disclaimer kind of before we get started here, is that this is going to be a financial workshop, and we are not financial aid or financial experts in any way, but feel free to put your questions in the chat kind of as we go along, and we will do our best to answer them for you. Okay, so before we get started, if you could all please fill out this pre-survey. You can either scan this QR code or you can access it by the link that's being put in the chat. And then when you are done with this pre-survey, if you could just put a thumbs up emoji or tell us that you're done with it in some way, so that we can move along. And everyone that fills out the pre-survey and post-survey is going to be put into a raffle for a gift card. So that is why it is important to fill this out. So we're going to take a couple minutes to do that now. All right, thank you for putting in the chat when you're done. And for anyone that has just joined, we are just filling out our pre-survey before we get started. And yes, thank you for those of you putting that you're done in the chat. We'll take another minute or two here. Okay, we're going to move along, but if you're still filling out that pre-survey, that's totally fine. You can continue that as we get going here.
All right, once again, thank you all for joining today's workshop. Again, my name is Kevin Castellanos, and I work for the Tacoma region here at CSF. For today's learning objective, by the end of this presentation, we hope that you have explored some financial best practices for budgeting and saving that will help you manage your finances for college and beyond. going over some of the things that we will be talking about today. We will be starting out with a Jeopardy activity that we'll be all doing collectively as a group. And then we'll transition over to debit and credit card best practices that Ariana and I will both work on together with you guys. Then we'll go over to a Jamboard review. These will be in small breakout rooms. You guys will have a CSF coach in each breakout room, a different CSF coach outside of Ariana and myself. Then we'll come collectively as a group to go over the pros and cons. Then we'll go into the income and expenses best practices, then the scenario and closing question, and then last but not least, the post survey and raffle.
Okay, so like Kevin shared, we are going to start off with Jeopardy, and we are going to be doing this together as a group. So how this is going to work is we are going to pretend like I said, everyone in this meeting is one person kind of. We're going to be managing a budget together. We're going to pretend like you get paid $250 bi-weekly, meaning that you have an income of $500 a month. And then in this Jeopardy, we are going to have options come up of different times that you can spend money if you would like to. So we are going to kind of popcorn around, and you're going to choose a topic on the Jeopardy, and you're going to say yes or no if you would like to spend the money for that. And then at the end of the Jeopardy, we're going to see if how much money we have left out of our $500 budget, or if maybe we win in the hole. That's okay too. And one thing to also remember about this Jeopardy is, or something to know, is that some things are not going to be optional. Some of them are going to be expenses that you have to say yes to, because that's real life, right? Things come up that we kind of have to spend money on. So yeah, and let me know if that makes sense. If you have any questions, let us know in the chat. Once we get going, it will make a little bit more sense here. Okay, so for the first person, I'm going to call on someone, and then after you go, you're going to popcorn it to the next person. So let's see, I will start with Robbie.
Let's do food and drink for, we'll just start at the top. We'll go easy.
Okay, you have burger, fries, and a Coke at the University Grill. Are you gonna pay $15 for that?
I'm very hungry today, so my answer is yes.
All right. Okay, and then if you want to call on the next person.
Okay, I scanned through. It's Spencer. See your name.
Oh,
All right, cool.
okay. I would say transportation expense too.
Okay, you
Oh.
have your monthly Metro card, and this one is required. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to say yes to this one and spend $122 on the Metro card.
Oh.
And then if you want to call on the next person, Spencer, thank you.
I would say I would say Avery.
All right. Let's see. Let's go mysterious and go miscellaneous for expense 3.
Okay, there's a networking mixer coming up for young professionals, and it's $75. Is this something that you think you want to do?
I don't know. The budget's a little tight. I'm gonna hold off on it. I'm gonna hold off on it.
Okay.
And then next person to go. Could I ask Damien?
Okay, let's do miscellaneous expense 2.
Okay, a movie premiere with your significant other, a little date night, $25. Does that sound like something you want to do?
I'll say yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And then if you want to call on the next person, Damien.
Let's go Micah.
Awesome. Let's go Bills 4.
Oh, another requirement, cell phone bill, $80 this month.
All right. All right. Let's go with Victoria.
I'm gonna do savings expense number 1.
Okay, would you like to put $25 into your savings account?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Victoria. And then if you want to choose the next person.
Let's do Jocelyn.
I'll do expense number 3. Oh no, sorry, savings expense number 3.
Okay, another $25 into your savings account. Does that sound like something that you'd like to do?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. Thank you. And then if you want to choose the next person, Jocelyn.
Let's go Julia.
I would choose transportation for 4.
Okay, do you want to go on a graduation trip with your friends? This is going to be a round trip flight and an Airbnb for $500.
Well, I would like to, but I think I have to say no. I can't imagine spending all my money on that.
Gotcha. Sounds good.
I'll call out Ellen.
I'm gonna go with miscellaneous number 1.
Okay, there's a cell phone game that you really like to play, and you want to get some tokens on it for $9.99. What are you gonna say?
No.
Okay, sounds good. And then if you want to choose the next person.
Diane.
Diane, do we have a? Okay, maybe Diane's not here. Do you have one other person? Sorry.
Okay, I'll go with Livy.
I would do bills expense number 2.
All right, you have to go to the doctor, and unfortunately, there's a copay of $20, so that one is going to be a yes, unfortunately. And then if you want to pick the next person.
Who has not went? Because a lot of people did go.
Yes, that's a good point. Let's see. I think we have. Has Eden gone?
I have not.
Okay,
Okay.
you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I'm gonna go for food and drink expense number 2.
All right, birthday dinner with your best friend, $40. Are you gonna say
Birthday
yes?
dinner with my best friend. I really like my friend, so I'm gonna go for yeah.
Awesome, sounds good. All right, $40. And then if you want to choose the next person, if there's any, I think there's a couple people left.
Has Damien gone?
I believe so.
Yeah, I've gone.
Has Cass gone?
I do not think so.
I haven't gone. Thanks. I'll do heavy hitter. I'll do miscellaneous expense number 4.
All right, festival tickets, $150.
How much money do I have left? I think I'm gonna have to pass on this one because
Okay.
I don't think we would make it out of the month if I decided to indulge this. But I'll pass, and then I'll pass it over to Deckard.
Savings expense number 4.
Okay, do you want to put $40 aside to save for some textbooks?
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. And then if you want to popcorn to the next person.
Has Jocelyn gone?
I think so.
Yes, I have.
Okay. Renell?
I just got in, so I'm not really sure what we're doing right now.
Oh, sorry. You can choose any of these all Jeopardy that are still yellow, and then you're gonna decide yes or no if you would like to spend the money on it. And we currently have, how much do we have left in our budget? Sorry, I just had it. We have $108 left in our budget.
Okay, let's do expense number 1 for bills.
Okay. Okay, laundry is $15. Do you want to spend the money on laundry?
Yeah, because I have had
Okay.
to do that, so yeah.
Yeah. All right, sounds good. Thank you. And then let's say I can pass it to the next person. Let's pass it to Lauren.
Okay, please give me food and drink for 3.
All right, groceries, we got $50. Do you want to buy groceries?
I mean, yeah, you kind of have to, right?
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
I'll pass it to Hanat. Did he already go? Oh, he doesn't have a mic. Okay, JP.
Let's go with food and drink expense number 4.
Okay, do you want to get a coffee every weekday this week? So that'd be $60.
Man, so if you guys know me, you know I love coffee. Ooh, and I'm a college student. I gotta make it through. Yeah, no, we're doing it. Let's do it. Yep.
Okay. And then we have a couple people left that are in the chat. Let's see, Sophie.
Yeah, let's do savings expense number 2.
Okay, putting $20 aside for your computer repair fund.
Oh, okay. Well, I have homework later this weekend, but I'm gonna have to say yes to this.
Okay. Let's see who else. Elias.
Hello. I'll go ahead and choose transportation expense number 3.
Okay, family trip to the Florida Keys. Your trip is your flight is gonna be $350.
Well, unfortunately, I don't have the budget for that, so I'm gonna pass.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and pass it to LaKendrick.
Thank you.
I'm gonna put bills expense 3.
Okay, you have $75 of credit card interest. Do you want to put $75 towards that?
How much money do we have left?
I think we're in the negative.
Oh, girl, I can't do that though.
Okay, we got one left. Who is left that hasn't gone yet?
It's me. I can go.
Okay, thank you.
So travel back to New York. Yeah, no.
No, okay. All right, guys. So I was doing the math and then my calculator got kind of messed up, but I think we were like negative -37. Thank you, Zach. All right. Does anyone have any takeaways from this Jeopardy? Any you can share in the chat or share out loud anything that this has brought to light for you?
I mean, I think immediately, as you guys are thinking, I'll share. I think immediately we can realize how much money we can spend without really realizing. And I think the Jeopardy in this game is an analogy of how sometimes it feels like other people are spending our money, but it's really just ourselves spending our money like day to day. And that really does add up, like the coffee, $60 every single day. It might seem like $4 or $5 each day, or I mean weekly, but it definitely adds up over the day. So just being mindful of those small expenses that definitely adds up easily, and then sometimes can limit us with other opportunities like taking a family vacation or dinner with friends and family. So yeah, that was one of my takeaways.
Yeah, need more than $500 a month. Yeah, you realize how little $500 a month can be sometimes if you have bills and things like this.
My bad.
Yeah, making coffee at home.
All right, cool. Well, thank you all for participating in that activity. I hope that you guys were able to just kind of see how money goes by really fast. I mean, $500 seems like a lot, but really, you know, without budgeting, even spending money on coffee or dinners, it really does add up over time. So moving on, we're going to be talking about debit card. So checking accounts allow you to use a debit card. Debit cards pull money directly from your checking account when you use them, whereas a credit card charges your line of credit and you'll have to pay later. So essentially, a debit card is money that you already physically have. It's instead of carrying cash, it's in a checking account. So you're not able to borrow money with a debit card. And if you have, let's say, $500 and you want to spend $600, you only are able to use the $500 that you have. So it's not like you're able to borrow money, whereas a credit card, you may be able to, right? Debit cards are amazing for everyday purchases, like, you know, buying your coffee or paying for a pair of shoes, being able to just use that card instead of your actual cash, which is the purpose of it. Some of the main reasons that people use it is also good for like automatic billing. So if you have like a Netflix account, a Hulu account, or your car payment, you're able to connect your checking account with that bill, and it can be taken directly out of your checking account. Some debit card risks and reward. So the biggest one, the first and the biggest one is overdraft charges. This happened a lot to me when I was in like high school and college, when I didn't really monitor my bank account and I would just hope that there's money there. But with making those mistakes, overdraft charges come into play. So overdraft is when a bank charges you for overdraft if you spend more money than you have in your checking account. So obviously keeping track of your balance online is a great way to avoid overdraft charges. So something to keep in mind. Another thing is security with debit cards. So because a debit card is directly connected to your bank account, it's important to ensure that your account information and debit card are kept secure, right? So never share your PIN with anyone, and don't use like your birthday as your PIN, right? Something that like, if I'm really good friends with Ariana, I may know her birthday and I may use her debit card and she doesn't even know it, right? I wouldn't do that to you, Ariana, just using that as an example. So yeah, obviously just keeping that information secure to yourself. Other fees like ATM fees, I'm not sure if many of you use ATMs day to day, but that also comes with fees if you're using ATMs that are outside of your network, right? So for example, if you're banking with Wells Fargo and you're using a Bank of America ATM, that may come with a fees associated with it, depending on how much money you're taking out. I wanted to share that I use a credit union. I use BECU here in Washington, and any ATM that I use, even if it does accumulate interest or fee using that ATM, BECU actually refunds me that amount. It's just a benefit of being a member of their credit union. So there are some options to keep in mind as well. Moving on to debit card best practices. So obviously using the card wisely, as I mentioned, avoid overdraft charges. That does kind of mean that you have to be monitoring your account. And I know that there's an anxiety associated with looking at your account, especially after you went on a shopping spree or after, knowing that you are spending money or a vacation. There's always some sort of like anxiety associated with it. But it does come with not knowing exactly how much money is still left there. So it limits mistakes in the future. So just try to avoid those overdraft fees. That maybe doesn't seem like a lot the first or second time, but if that's happening weekly, that does begin to add up. Setting up alerts, so notifications when a purchase is made, to be aware quickly of any fraudulent activity. This is something that I started doing a few years back, but essentially if you're making like $15 to $40 purchases pretty frequently, I would essentially put the limit at like $50 or above. So if you're spending $50, I'm gonna Thank you. If you're spending more than $50 on your debit card, and that's something that you don't do often, it will send you a notification either via email or text that will be sent to you directly. And so if you are making those purchases, you're aware and you can keep track of those purchases. But if you see like an $150 purchase from like Amazon and you haven't shopped at Amazon in the last month, you can quickly notify your bank about that activity. So moving on to my third point. So if you lose your card, or if it was stolen from you, obviously immediately report it to your bank. If you wait some time hoping that you find it and there's activity on that bank account that you're not making, you can be liable for those charges if you don't act pretty quickly. So even if you are not sure where your card is, you can access like the online banking, pause your account with one of the representatives online. It's super easy, and you can, if you do end up finding it, you can just unpause it right away as well. So my last point, so adding your debit card to your phone to have e-wallet access. I don't know how many of you all use this. This is pretty new. I started using this not long ago, but it is really beneficial and convenient if you don't bring your wallet or if you don't have your debit card on you, especially on those like emergency purchases that you may need to do, like gas or food. I know if you're like myself, you always have your phone with you. So being able to just click 2 buttons and pay using your phone is pretty convenient. So there's also a security thing associated with that, not putting in your actual debit card. Those companies don't have all that information when you use your e-wallet, when you use your phone. That was a lot of information. So are there any questions at all? I know there was some in the chat and I'm not sure if they're being monitored, but any questions at all?
I think we don't have any questions in the chat, but some helpful tips to check out from some of our coaches. But if you do have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Okay, so we're going to move on to credit cards and learning a little bit of the difference between credit cards and debit cards. So a credit card is a good way for people to borrow money from a bank or financial organization. When you're approved for a credit card, it means that the bank is willing to lend you a certain amount of money every month, and that is called your credit limit. So if you get a credit limit of $1,000 when you open a credit card, that means that the bank or the organization is willing to lend you that every month. So the most kind of important distinction between a credit card is that it's not your own money. It's money that you're borrowing and paying back. And that's what your credit card bill is when you're paying it back. There's not a bank account linked to credit cards, whereas debit cards, there is a bank account linked to them. And then a couple different credit card risks and rewards. The first is debt. So because you're kind of buying now and paying later with credit cards, there is that risk of instant gratification and overspending, possibly getting into debt. So like when we did our Jeopardy game here, we went into debt technically, right? It can be easy to spend a lot more than you're thinking that you are, especially when it's a credit card. It doesn't feel quite as real all the time. I definitely hit my credit limit pretty fast the first time I got a credit card when I was in college. And so it's definitely something, to keep checking on your phone. I know it's annoying to check how much that you've spent so far in the month, but it is important so that you're not getting yourself into debt there. Another thing is credit scores. So credit cards do help you with your credit score. Your credit history and your credit score is built over time, and it affects your ability to qualify for loans, like a mortgage for a house or a car loan. And it also affects your ability to get other credit cards in the future. So starting a credit card in college can be a really great way to start building your credit score. And as long as you're making those payments and not getting in debt, that's what's going to positively affect your credit score. Versus if you do end up getting into some debt there and paying interest, that's going to negatively affect your credit score. And then the last kind of thing here about rewards for credit cards is that they do often come with rewards, generally in the form of cash back on your purchases, or sometimes there can be travel rewards like airline miles. So if you're thinking about opening your first credit card, you're looking for another credit card, do your research when you're looking around. It can be a good idea sometimes to get a credit card from a place that you are spending money at frequently. Like there's Costco credit cards, Amazon, I'm pretty sure is a credit card. Also, anywhere that you're, going back to and spending money on a frequent basis, it can be good to get a credit card at places like that because you can get cash back on your purchases there. Or if you're someone that likes to travel, getting one that has airline miles can be another good reward. So just look around and compare the different rewards of credit cards and what's going to be best for you. And then a couple credit card best practices. So pay off your balance on your credit card every month in full. This is going to make sure that you are not paying any interest. Interest on credit cards is where you're keeping a balance on there from month to month, and then you're going to pay some interest most likely. Also, like I said, just being aware of your credit limit. A good kind of rule of thumb is to spend only about 30% of your credit limit every month. So for example, if you have a credit limit of $1,000, only spending $300 of that is going to help your credit score, and it's going to kind of help you from overspending and getting into debt too. So when you see your credit score, try to think of it as doing about 30% of that every month. And of course, certain things come up and you have to put things on your credit card sometimes, but a good rule of thumb is to try to stay in the 30%. And then also when selecting a credit card, pay attention to the annual fee. Some credit cards have an annual fee. There are a lot of them that do not have an annual fee. So try to get one that does not have an annual fee if you can, so that you don't have to pay that. And then also look for one with a lower interest rate, with the APRs lower. So hopefully you won't have to pay interest if you are making those credit card payments. But sometimes it happens and we have to carry a little bit of a balance. So in those cases, you want to get one that has a lower interest rate. Okay.
Ariana, before we move on, we have two questions. The first question is, when is it a good time to get a credit card? And I can talk a little bit about this. I don't think that there's specifically the perfect moment to apply for your first credit card. But when you do wait to the point in your life where maybe you're wanting to buy a home or buy a car, without credit history, your interest rates that are offered to you through the bank are going to be a lot higher versus if you've already had a few years of credit history, right? So I think that now is a good time where maybe you don't have a lot of bills. You can take a credit card and use that for maybe gas for the month, or maybe a few meals that you use, and you have that money already that you can easily pay that off without interest at the end of the month. Because when you wait to get a credit card, when you want a bank loan for a personal loan, a house loan, a car loan, you'll have to live with a little bit of higher interest rates. So I would say the sooner the better. Obviously, it comes with precaution of like not spending more than you need, but that comes with some discipline. But yeah, is there anything else that you want to add to that, Ariana?
No, I think that's a good answer. And this other question in here as well, how do credit cards contain money? So like we said, it's not connected to a bank account. Like a debit card is connected to a bank account. Credit cards are not connected to a bank account. So when you are using your credit card, you are basically borrowing money from a bank or from wherever that credit card is from. And so when you're paying your credit card bill, you are paying back that money that you borrowed. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if it doesn't. Okay, and thank you for the questions. Continue to put them in the chat and we will get to them at some point. So we are going to move along to money management definitions. So we are going to put you in 3 breakout rooms in just a minute. They will be named credit card, savings account, and checking account. And you will be working on a Jamboard. So the Jamboard link is going to be put in the chat as well here. So there it is. So if you'd please click on that Jamboard link and open that up before we go into breakout rooms, that would be awesome. And basically what you're going to do is once you find your group, there's a true or false on that group's page of the Jamboard. You're going to work together as a group to move those sticky notes that have different claims on them into either true or false. And it's okay if you don't know for sure, right? We're all kind of learning as we go along here. And we're going to spend 5 minutes in these breakout rooms because we're running a little bit behind on time. And then when you think that you have got everything to true or false, you can go ahead and skip to the end of the Jamboard and they will have the correct answers there if you want to check your answers with your group. And please also have one person to share out just like a quick reflection when we come back. Okay, so let us know if you have any questions. There will be a coach in each room as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask your coach and we'll go ahead and open up these breakout rooms.
You all should have the ability to go into the breakout rooms. I will see y'all in there. Hey y'all. So we are group 2, which is checking account. Let me double check, make sure.
The most exciting of all of the group options.
Oh wait, what happened?
Because you actually have the money.
Yeah.
So if you all don't have access to the, here, I'll put the link again in the Jamboard, but I see a lot of y'all moving it right now, so you can move to the true or false. I'll also share my screen.
Interest rates account is not.
So this is us right here.
Okay, I gotcha.
Oh, wait, whoops.
What y'all think, Spencer, Nicole, Livy, Kendrick, Lorena, Nicole? See y'all.
Wait.
I misread one of these post-it notes, the one that says used to securely store money. I thought that said secretly store money, and it's like it's like an offshore like bank account.
Wait, can I see somebody move this back for can have an annual membership fee, but that's not something heard of with checking. Is that a thing?
Yeah, probably not, right? It's probably more like a credit card situation. Yeah.
Okay.
Or what about when it says often offers rewards for use? What's that?
Say maybe more like a savings.
That's
Maybe
also like a credit card,
credit
maybe.
card.
Probably more so
Yeah.
even credit card, like getting
Yeah.
like miles, airline miles or something like that.
Okay.
Every dollar
Okay.
spent. A lot of credit cards offer something like that.
That's
All
true.
right.
That's how
Right,
they
right,
that's how they lure you in. They entice you with like good rewards like that, and then they hope that you forget to pay your bill.
I don't know if it helps build credit history. What do you guys think on that one?
Also, credit can be positive or negative.
I don't think that's for checking account. I think those are for credit cards. Maybe.
I do
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. I mean, some are both true. Like you can use a
Mhm.
checking or
Mhm.
credit for online stuff.
So looks correct to me.
We have about 1 minute, y'all. You all good with these results?
Yeah.
I'll see the answers on next
Yeah,
few.
should we pan over and look at the answers?
So true. Can have an annual membership fee, can be used to make online purchases, used to securely store your money in the bank and make purchases using a debit card, check, or online. Typically does not accumulate or charge interest. Can be used to deposit and withdraw money from a bank or ATM, and ATM fees for using a different bank and or insufficient funds if you go under a certain limit. For false, using to build credit, by borrowing money, interest fee, which must be paid back at the end of the month, charges high interest rates if balance is not paid back in full each month. Often offers rewards for use, helps build credit history, can be
I think
positive.
these got mixed up, right? This is like credit card, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
they got tangled up or something like that. Or flipped. CSF spreading misinformation.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. So really quick, if we could have one person from each breakout room to either put in the chat or say out loud, what is a reflection from doing this Jamboard or something that you learned? I know we're a little bit short on time, so hopefully we got to finish most of it.
We can start with the credit card. Or go ahead.
Oh yeah. I guess the credit card, it can be positive or negative. If you use it right, it's a good thing, but if you use it wrong, and also banks probably want you to use it wrong because that's how they make money. That's something I thought I should say. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Eden. That's a really, really great reflection. And yeah, it can be positive or negative, right? It just kind of depends on how the user uses it. And you're right, I think the banks probably, make a profit if you don't use it right. And then we have in the chat also some reflections here as well. Yeah, to pay attention to the charges of checking accounts. Pay attention to your charges. And then for the savings account group, there's different kinds of savings accounts that can accumulate different interest amounts, such as high yield saving accounts. Yes. Yeah, thank you, Sophie. That is a really great piece of information as well. Okay, thank you for your reflections. So just to review the Jamboard a little bit more, just a couple more pros and cons about each of these things. Savings accounts, a big pro is that it's a place to securely store your money, and you're going to earn some interest on that money over time. Something about savings accounts too is that you can set up your direct deposit to put some money directly into a savings account if you get paid with direct deposit. So that's a good way to just immediately put some away for savings. And then savings accounts can be used to deposit and withdraw money from a bank or ATM. But the main thing about savings accounts to remember is that they're usually not really supposed to be used for making purchases. You want to kind of put money in them and leave it for a while so that it can grow interest. And so, yes, they cannot be used to make purchases online. A checking account is the kind of bank account that you're going to use to make purchases. So this is what your debit card is tied to, is a checking account. So this is a place to securely store your money and make purchases. Some cons about checking accounts is there can be ATM fees if you're using a different bank. So if you're pulling money out of an ATM, try to find one of the same bank that your checking account is in. And there can also be fees for insufficient funds. So that's why it's important to make sure that you are having, checking to make sure you're having money on your in your account before you're making purchases. Because if you make a purchase and you kind of go in the negative, you can get a fee for that. And checking accounts do not accumulate interest, so you're not going to earn any money on the money that you have in a checking account, if that makes sense, only in a savings account. Credit cards, like we talked about a bit, they can help you build your credit card history over time, and they have rewards. A credit card is also a safe way to make purchases online. Some people argue that credit cards are safer to use online than debit cards because it's not your own money, right? So if someone did get into it, it's not your own money, so it can be a little bit easier to fix. Also, if someone got into it, they could only spend up to that credit card limit. So if your limit is like $500 and someone got into it, they can only spend $500 versus if you had more money in your checking account. That's something that I did starting in college when I got my first credit card is I just used it to buy stuff online. Whenever I wanted to buy stuff on Amazon or whatever it was, I would just use a credit card and spend about 30% of it to buy things online and then just make sure I'm paying it back every month. Some cons is that there can be high interest rates if it's not paid back every month, like we talked about. And again, make sure that you're finding one that does not have an annual membership fee if possible.
All right. I know we're talking a lot about money and how to manage it and save it. But in order to be able to do that, we need to have money to be able to spend and save, right? So moving on to income. Income is money that an individual or business receives in exchange for providing labor, producing a good or service, or through investing capital, right? So I want to open the chat up to see if there's any people that want to share what kind of incomes they currently have, what forms of income they currently have, while I'm kind of going over this slide still a little bit. So feel free to just enter that in the chat. Most people think of income as your job, right? Whether it's part-time, full-time job. For example, I'm employed by College Success Foundation full-time. That is my 8 to 5. But that doesn't mean that that's my only form of income, right? I can have a part-time job on the side, or I can have hobbies or do other things on the side that create another form of income for me. We have in the chat working part-time at Walmart as a cashier. Of course, that's a form of income. And besides just employment, if you have a job like working as a server at a restaurant, you can also view like tips as a form of income. No income at all, that's perfectly fine. Financial aid is also a form of income, right? So if you are attending school full time and you're receiving scholarships and you're receiving more scholarships than you have to pay tuition, there's a refund check associated with that. So essentially you can use that refund check to save or spend that money however it is that you want. So you can also look at financial aid as a form of income. And I also wanted to plug a resource that you all have accessible to you being involved with college services here at CSF, which is the emergency fund request. So if you are needing any emergency funding with, needing to pay groceries, or you need a new computer, whatever that reason may be, you can essentially apply for our emergency fund request, meet with your CSF coach, and essentially create a plan on how we can best support you. And you can essentially receive up to $500 per academic year. And that is given to you either through a gift card, or you can request a check as well. That takes usually about 2 weeks to get to your house. And so that's also a form of income that you're able to use. You don't have to necessarily just pay for tuition or groceries. You can use that money according to how you best need it. So is there anything else in the chat? Zach said, yeah, of course, no income yet. Army Reserve. Yep. Perfect. All right, moving on. So moving on to expenses. So with income and with making money, we have to spend that money one way or another, whether we like it or not, right? There's 2 forms of expenses that we'll go over today. The first one is a fixed expense. Fixed expenses generally are the same price per month or per semester. When creating a budget, you should take these into account first. They're very easy to account for in a budget because they do not change. So while I'm talking, if you guys want to share some of your fixed expenses in the chat, for example, 2 of mine are rent and my car payment. Those 2 payments I can plan out for the rest of this year. I know exactly what I will be spending to the dollar, to the cent, on my rent and my car bill, right? So those are things that I can easily enter into my budget and know what I will be spending every single month, because it's going to be the same exact amount and it's once a month. So the frequency is also the same. The price and the frequency is the same. We have some in the chat. Phone bill, of course, rent and phone, car payment, car insurance, yes, mortgage, all of those are good. Moving on to variable expenses. So variable expenses change in price and or frequency month to month, right? So let's say you go out to eat, once a week, but some weeks it might be 2 or 3 times. So that would be in a variable expense going out to lunch or dinner with friends, because you may be going more frequently one week than you have in the past. And so that changes. And not only the frequency, but the price, right? You may spend $20 one day at dinner, but the next dinner might be your friend's dinner, and you're paying for theirs as well, and now that's $40 or $45. And so you can also add that as a variable expense. So if you guys want to add some in the chat as well, for variable expenses. Utilities, of course, yeah. So gas money, you may be taking a road trip one month and you don't know how much money you'll be spending on that. So maybe typically you'll spend, let's say, $80 a month, but maybe that month you'll be spending double that, right? So that would be a variable expense. Snacks, of course. Hair appointment, yeah, of course. Nail appointment, yes. Weekly groceries. Yeah, of course, those are all good. Eating out, yeah. Eating out is such a huge one. It doesn't seem like a lot when you're going out to eat, but when you're doing it multiple times a week on back-to-back weeks, that definitely adds up. So hair salon, yeah, a lot of people, yep. All right.
All right, thanks for putting those in the chat. You can continue to put those examples in the chat. It's very helpful. So when continuing on about budgeting best practices, these are a couple of examples just to keep in mind when you're budgeting. So you've probably heard this before. Everyone always says, spend less than you make, but it is true. This is an easy way to just make sure that you are starting to have some savings there. You're going to automatically save money if you're always spending less than you make. And by keeping a budget, either if it's on your phone, there's lots of apps for budgeting, on your computer, or just writing it down every time you spend money, that's a good way to keep track of how much you're spending versus how much is coming in. Another thing is to pay your kind of like savings bill first. So this is a way, if you want to start creating some savings fund, whenever you get paid, just immediately put some towards that. And you can always pull it back out if you need to for some reason. And like I said earlier, if you do have a job and you are getting direct deposit, you most of the time can set up your direct deposit to put a percentage straight into a savings account so that you will have that and you don't even have to think about it. And then the rest can go into your checking account for making your purchases and paying your bills. Starting to differentiate between wants and needs. So it can be, easy to kind of get them mixed up, but when you are purchasing things, it's kind of nice to just get the idea, thinking about, okay, is this like a want, or is this something that I really need to be spending money on? And buying wants is not a bad thing. Everyone does it, right? But it is just important to make sure that your needs are met first before you're buying things that you want that don't absolutely need. Another kind of tip is to give yourself a weekly allowance. This can be helpful for buying things like wants, for example. So, we all like to enjoy going out with our friends and getting Starbucks and buying some new clothes, things like that. It can be helpful to give yourself a weekly allowance for those types of things, depending on how much you want to put towards that. So saying like, okay, I'm going to spend $30, $50 a week on those things, and kind of giving yourself a limit. And then when you get to that limit, to kind of stop and wait for the next week. Another tip is to start building an emergency fund. This is, things always come up, like your computer might break, your car might break down. There's always emergency things that come up that can be quite expensive. So that is why it's nice to start having a savings so that you can pull from that. But like we said, as being a CSF student, you have access to emergency funds. So that is a great way to get some money if one of those emergency situations come up, is to talk to your coach and access your emergency funds in that way. And then the last tip here is to set some financial goals. Some examples could be, maybe you are trying to move out of your house, you're trying to move into your first apartment or dorm, right? There's going to be expenses that come with that. Even things like buying a shower curtain, buying sheets for the bed, all those things are going to cost money. So that can be a goal to start saving for that. Maybe you're saving for your first car. Maybe you're saving for a vacation. There can be lots of different goals, or you're just trying to start saving, start getting that savings account in general.
All right, so moving on to the scenario. So with the tools and strategies that you've learned today, Come up with some advice that you would give Emma, a college student who recently received her first college refund of $1,000. No, Emma has a part-time job that allows her to pay her bills. The refund would be additional money she has to spend or save. What should she put that money towards? So just be creative with this activity. There's no right or wrong answer. We just want to see where you all are with the information that we've shared today. And if you were to be given $1,000 that you don't necessarily have to allocate to bills, how would you advise that student to do with that money? So there's no right or wrong answer, and you could just add that in the chat, please. I would advise Emma to probably give me some money of that, since it's all extra for her and she doesn't need that for any bills. So I'd ask her for some money. Open a Roth IRA to save it. That is an amazing advice to give. Save some for books for next quarter. Of course, coffee. I almost thought JP wrote that. Sorry, JP, it was Robbie. Pretend you never got it and put it in savings. Budgeting guide of 20, 30, 50%. Start an emergency savings account. Making a garage sale, put it back into college. To save it and only use it for emergencies. Use it for school only, a savings account. Don't spend all of it, put some money in savings or invest in stocks, and only pay for needs and less on wants. Perfect advice. I would save 500 and then put the rest to gas bills and food. Perfect. All right. Thank you guys for participating in our scenario. Great advice.
All right, thank you. And so we just have a closing question here, and then we are going to have the gift raffle at the end and our closing survey, so make sure to stay on. But our closing question is to think of one financial goal that you have, and what is a step that you can take in the next week or month to progress towards that goal. So you can feel free to put this in the chat. You can take a second to think about it and write it down on a sticky note. But I do think it is really important to think of one goal and some things that you can implement to do that. And we're going to share some of our goals as well. So my financial goal is to eventually buy a house in the future, probably like 3 to 5 years from now. So a bit of a long-term goal, but that's my biggest financial goal at the moment. And some things that I am going to be doing and have been doing is budgeting, and then working on to create a savings for down payment on that. And then also working on my credit score so that I can qualify for a mortgage.
Perfect. Yeah. And one of my financial goals is to pay off my student debt. At this time, I think I have about 5,000 left. And so I want to pay that off in the next 2 years. So essentially seeing how much I need to allocate monthly for that remaining balance. And that's one of my financial goals that I have.
Thank you. And like I said, you can put that in the chat if you want, or keep it to yourself. We are going to put in the chat also some additional resources for you all about budgeting and some websites, so you can go ahead and download that file that was just put in there if you want to look a little bit more into this on your own time. Thank you for putting some of those in the chat as well. Okay, so we have our post survey, and like I said, please stay on because we are going to be raffling a gift card in a minute here. So you can go through that link in the chat to finish this post survey or scan this QR code. And please put in the chat when you are done again. And just a little something to add here as we're closing as well is if you do have any remaining questions or are just more interested in this as we are talking about it, please reach out to your CSF coach to talk about budgeting. That is, totally something that we talk about with our students quite often, is money and finances and budgeting. So if you are wanting more information on this and still have some unanswered questions, you can reach out to us or your coach as well. Okay, so if you're still working on that post survey, keep on going ahead, and we're gonna go ahead and do our gift card raffle now. It looks like we got Jocelyn as the first one. Congratulations, Jocelyn.
I didn't spin yet, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I was like, looked away for 1 second. Okay, now we're going. Sorry about that. All right, we got Livy. Congratulations. And Eden as our other one. All right, thank you. Congratulations. And like we said, we will have some more also for those of you that did the post and pre-survey as well. So keep in touch, and thank you so much, everyone, for coming to our webinar.